Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. Abstract smoke forms can create stunning visual art pictures. This was created with the smoke from an unscented joss stick, captured virtually in black and white. Several separate images were then combined to produce the final picture. And in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so this is basically capturing the smoke from a joss stick. So here I have an unscented joss stick which I've placed in this clamp. Now I'm going to clamp all these things fairly rigidly to try and take as much randomness out of the equation as possible. The smoke will produce a random effect anyway, so the more that you can get clamped down, the better it will be. And to that end, I'm going to set a pre-focus point for the camera. Now, to aid me in doing that, I've also got a rule here which I've placed in another clamp. So if I just pop this on here, like that, I can just put that in the frame temporarily so that I can use this as a focus point. Okay, so that's more or less the subject. So the next thing would be to place the camera on a tripod. Now I'm using a tripod again to cut out any random effects. So we'll just pop this down here. I'll place the camera on the top of that. I'm using a medium format camera, but this will work with virtually anything. Okay, the techniques are all exactly the same, irrespective of what type of camera you're going to use. So with all this set, the next thing to do would be to set up a light. So I'm going to use this studio flash. You can do this with a normal flash gun. This will just be a little simpler to show you what is going on. Let me just pop this up in the air. I'm putting this at about the same height as the top of the joss stick. So about there. Now the thing about capturing smoke is that if you light it from behind, it will be a lot more effective. But one of the downsides of doing that is that the light from this will almost certainly end up going in the camera. But we'll sort that out later. Okay, so the light's in position, the camera's set. We just need to do something about all this background. So to give me a really dark background, I've used this piece of black cloth. And this will form the background to the smoke to make it really stand out. And as you can see, it's about 1.5 meters away from the actual joss stick itself. Okay, so that is basically everything set. So what we can do now is start up the camera, and I'm going to tether that into Capture One so you can see the results as we go along. So there we are, so the camera's all on now and it's plugged into Capture One, and I can show you all the settings that I have on the camera at the moment. So the camera is in full manual mode. I'm using a shutter speed of 1/250th of a second. Now that's the flash sync speed for this particular camera. Your camera will have a different flash sync speed, but the idea is that you want to use as fast a focal plane shutter speed as you possibly can to cut out the maximum amount of ambient light. Okay, the sensitivity is 100 ISO. And at the moment I've set the aperture on this lens to f11. Now I've done that to give me a reasonable depth of field. Again, this is all about trying to make sure that you're taking out all of the randomness. So by having a reasonable depth of field, I'm fairly certain that some of the smoke anyway will be in focus. Okay, So with all that lot set as it is, the first thing I'm going to do before the flash is turned on is just grab an image just to make sure that with those settings I get no contamination from the house lights. So I'll just trigger a capture. And there we are. So there's absolutely nothing there at the moment, which is good. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so now it's time to turn on the flash and we'll set an initial exposure. Now I'm able to do that from the camera controls here, as the flash sync trigger is actually built into the camera. So this is the Profoto flash sync trigger, and what I can do is just select the flash, which is that one, and I can just turn that on. There we are. Now initially I'm going to put this in TTL mode, like so, and then this will then calculate the flash exposure for me. So if I just grab an image now, there we are, you can see that there is an image of sorts. It's out of focus, but it's a starting point. So to focus up the image, what I'm going to do is just start up live view on the computer here. There we are, and I'm going to adjust the aperture all the way down to 2.8. That will give me the narrowest depth of field, so the focusing will be much more critical. Okay, so we'll go back to the live view, and I'm going to zoom all the way in. We're just going to place the cursor on the ruler. Now the way that I've got the rule set at the moment is that the 10 centimeter mark is about in line with the tip of the joystick. So we just need to find that on the rule here. So I'll just focus that up with the focus controls. Here we are. There. And you can see the 10 is now in focus, and either side of it is going out. So if I now change that aperture from 2.8 back up to where we were before, which is 11, go back to live view, you can now see that I have quite a latitude, up to about 7, and it's equally good up to about 15 on the other side. So the next thing I want to do is just sort out the flare down here. Now I'm also at the same time going to use the opportunity just to put this reflector on the light here, just to concentrate the beam a little. This should make it a bit more efficient at capturing the smoke. It won't do anything about the flare, and just to show that, what I'm going to do is just grab an image just with that on. So we'll just do that. And again, I'm just using TTL so that it calculates the exposure for me. And you can see that we now have a sharp image here, but we've still got an awful lot of flare. If I zoom all the way in, we move around to the 10 mark, you can see this is very, very sharp at this point. Okay, so to now reduce that flare or get rid of it altogether, what I'm going to do is just place a flag around here somewhere. So here we go. We have a little flag, just a black cloth on a stand, but that should do the trick. Okay, so if that's in anything like the right position, I'll grab another image and we'll see what we get. There we are. So that's looking okay, and it's got rid of all of the flare. So now we have a reasonably clean image, and we know that the focus point is set. I can get rid of my focusing aid, and we can prepare to light the joystick. Go. There. So hopefully now that is producing smoke. It's actually quite difficult to see, but you should be able to see that there is some small smoke coming up from the joss stick. So initially what I'm going to do is just grab an image and see what I get. Again, it's in TTL control. And yes, that seems to have worked quite well. If I just zoom in, we can have a look at the detail that we're getting in here. Yes, that's looking quite nice. Okay, so that's a starting point. But again, just to stop any randomness, what I'm going to do is just take the flash control out of TTL and put it back into manual. So I'll just bring up the flash control here and just change that from TTL to manual. There we go. And by doing that, it will give me consistency across a number of captures. So having full manual control over the flash will give me that consistency. Okay, so now it's just a case of disturbing the smoke column and taking some pictures and grabbing some images. Right, so what I'll do is just disturb the smoke a little. And we'll see what we get each time. Okay, so that's quite a lot of captures, so the thing to do now is just to review those, and I'm literally going to just pick 6 of the best and import those into Photoshop. So here we are in Photoshop, and I've imported 6 of the images that I captured earlier. So I've got this one, and so on. So the first thing to do would be to make a stack of all these images. So I'm just going to use the built-in tool for that, which is a script. So I'll come down here, load files into stack, add open files, and just click on OK. So this is my stack of images, and each one is on a separate layer. So now I can just dispense with the camera originals, and this is the file that I'll be going forward with. Okay, so as we mentioned at the very beginning, these are virtually black and white. So the first thing I'm going to do to each individual layer is change it so that I can add colour. And the way I'm going to do that is just to use an adjustment. So if I go to the hue and saturation adjustments, like so, click back on layer again. So this, at the moment, as it is, will affect all of the layers that's underneath it. And I don't want it to do that. I just want it to affect the layer which it's next to. So I'll just click on this icon here, and that will clip it just to that layer. So now I'm just going to use the colorize command. I'm going to take the saturation up to full, and for this particular layer I'm just going to leave it at 0, so it will make everything very red, as you can see in here. But just before I'm finished with that, I'm just going to go up to edit here and click on copy. Now that will copy all this layer control. So now if I turn off that top layer, so I'll just select that, I can now go back up to the edit and go paste, and it will paste this hue and saturation as I used it on the first layer. So again, click on the clip command, but now I just want to take this up to the next primary colour. So that would be at about 120 will be pure green, and with that one done, I can move to the next one down, edit, paste, once again clip it to that one, and now I'm just going to go for blue, which would be 240. And now the secondary colours, so Yellow would be around 60. Cyan is 180. And finally, magenta is 300. Okay, so now we have all these separate layers, all a different colour. And I need to find a way to combine them all together. And I think the best way to do that is just to change the blending mode. So I'm just going to select the top layer and go to each image layer in between, and holding down the Control key, I'll just select all those. So, and change the blending mode from normal to lighten. And that has now merged all those layers together. And you do have an awful lot of control here. So for instance, if I wanted to alter a particular colour, go to a particular layer, which represents a particular colour, and just change the opacity. There we are. So I can bring that back and bring it forwards at will. And I've just used primary and secondary colours here, but obviously you can pick whichever colours you fancy. Okay, so with that all done, I think I'd just like to do some global adjustments to the whole thing. So I'm just going to add another adjustment layer. That will be a levels adjustment. Here we are, so that's just sitting right at the top, so that will actually affect all the layers underneath it. So I can just take that down ever so slightly and just adjust it until it looks right. There is no right and wrong to any of this. There we are. And I think that's looking reasonably good. Okay, so finally I'm just going to add a crop. And now I'm going to use this for video, so I'm picking a specific ratio. There we are. I think the cyan is possibly a little over the top, so I can just take that out. So I'll just remove that. I think that might improve the whole thing actually. There. So there we have it. So by applying a fairly simple technique of backlighting smoke, it's possible to create some stunning visual art. And don't forget, there are lots of permutations of different colours and different mixes and different blend modes that can be used to create something like this. And I think overall, that's worked rather well. Okay, well I hope you like watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other pictures as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.